Go ahead, Steve, whenever you're ready.
Rafael Lovato Jr., how are you today, sir? This is Steve Jewin from MMA Mania.
I'm doing incredible. Good to talk to you, Steve. How are you?
Excellent, and I'm still excited about what I saw at Bellator 198. That was a really special treat in Chicago. I know in your world you see submission after submission in tournaments all the time, but to see 4 out of 5 fights, including your submission, on that main card, it was truly an extraordinary night in Chicago.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Do you think we're in for something similar here at Bellator 205?
I doubt you're going to see, that many finishes in one night, especially on the main card. As far as my fight, it's hard to say. I try not to put any one specific thing in my mind as to like, oh, this is how it's going to go, just going to be ready for everything. Both Salter and I are ground specialists, and so, he's not going to fall into any silly traps or anything like that. And neither am I. So, it could be that our ground skills sort of cancel each other out and the fight has to, take place in other areas more. We'll see how it goes, but I'm ready for everything and I would love to get another beautiful submission for you guys.
This has been a long time coming. Does this feel like it's going to be an enormous weight off your chest that this finally gets to go down?
I wouldn't say an enormous weight off my chest. It's just, like we basically been training for each other all year. He's been on my mind all year. I still got to fight last time around. So I think if anyone has more of a weight on their chest, it's probably him than me, being that he's been sidelined, basically the whole year. It'll just be like, it's just, okay, let's check this off. Let's do it, the game plan, preparing for this one guy, like I said, basically the whole year. It'll just be nice to finally play it out and, have fun in there and test myself against him, challenge myself against him, and get that victory and show everyone that I'm the number one contender.
Well, speaking of the fact that you did get to fight at 198 and he didn't, I don't know if I asked you this that night, so if I did, I apologize, but I'll ask now. What was the feeling for you getting in there with such an experienced fighter in Gerald Harris, somebody that had been in the fight game for a very long time, had actually walked away and retired, but when he fought you, he'd had over 30 professional fights?
Oh man, I have a lot of respect for Gerald. He's a fellow Oklahoman, family man. He works hard and he had a great career, and to have him come back and help me, still have a fight and give me that opportunity, I was just really grateful. A lot of respect to Gerald coming in such short notice. Obviously, he is a dangerous, very explosive fighter. And so I had my concerns about, different elements that he brought, to the table. But it all worked out great. And, it was just awesome that he was such a quality opponent and still somewhat similar to what I'd already been preparing for, the fact that he was a wrestler and a southpaw. So it just ended up being destiny. That was supposed to happen the way it happened. And now it's just given even more momentum, going against Salter now. Now will be the co-main event, and we get to fight a week before, the middleweight title is on the line. And so hopefully this really just, sets everything up perfectly for the future title fight.
And you talked about how it played out the way it may have been meant to be all along. And I feel there is a story there when you look at the last 3 fights you've had between Mike Rhodes, Chris Honeycutt, and Gerald Harris. They're all experienced wrestlers who are very explosive and have heavy hands. So it seems like you're just going through one after the other, working your way up to that potential middleweight title shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's my dream. In Jiu-Jitsu, my goal is to be a world champion and, solidify myself as one of the best of my generation. And, now. I'm doing my best to do the same. You know, in MMA, it's my dream to be the Bellator world champion and get that world title in MMA, and hold that belt as well, for as long as possible. And, you know, so every fight I've consistently stepped up in level of competition. You know, I'm not trying to have easy fights or anything like that. I want to evolve, get better, learn, grow, test myself, and, you know, climb my way to that title as quickly and cleanly as possible.
Well, there's another person who has just entered himself into the mix looking for a similar opportunity, and that is Lyoto Machida, who is fighting the former champion Rafael Cavallo on December 15th in Honolulu. Do you see yourself as potentially having to face Machida before you would get a shot against the winner of the fight 8 days after yours?
I don't know. You know, I mean, we gotta, like, just see how it plays out. I mean, I think another, you know, great finish, another solid victory, especially over someone like Salter, who's arguably been deserving of a title shot, you know, longer than me, like longer than anybody in the division. You know, that would really solidify myself. I mean, Machida has the name. He still has to get past Carvalho, which, you know, I think is going to be a very tough fight for him. So we just have to see how that goes. And it could be a boring decision. And in that case, neither one of them, you know, maybe we'll get that title shot, you know, or a rematch for, like, if it was Carvalho. So, you know, there's a lot of factors. Right now, I'm just thinking about what's in front of me and, you know, the big challenge that is John Salter, and, just trying to get my hand raised and make it look good. That's it.
Well, before I get into that just a little bit more, I have one more question, and I'm really going to put you on the spot with this one. Since we keep talking about the fact that it's 8 days after your fight, who do you see winning that middleweight title fight on DAZN? Is it going to be the challenger, the Red King Rory McDonald, or is it going to be the man who dethroned Cavallo? Is it going to be Gegard Mousasi?
I would put my money on Mousasi. You know, nothing like against Rory at all. Like, I mean, he's a warrior, so much skill. I think it has the makings to be, you know, an incredible fight, super technical. They're both so well rounded. I just feel like, you know, Mousasi's going to be getting his hands raised at the end of that night.
It is hard to bet against him with his level of experience and his extraordinary striking ability. But like you said, McDonald is a warrior, so I expect a hell of a fight. But then I also expect a hell of a fight here at Bellator 205 in Boise. And you talked about how evenly matched up you two are when it comes to level of experience and competition in jiu-jitsu and getting submission finishes. So is it basically a fight where there's no weakness in your opponent? Is it evenly matched across the board?
Oh, I wouldn't say, you know, there's no weakness. I mean, we're all human. We all have our weaknesses. It's just, you know, who's gonna, you know, bite into the other person's weaknesses first? Who's gonna make the first mistake and be able to capitalize? You know, that's it. You know, like, I'm not saying I'm going to win this way or that way. You know, I'm prepared for war. You know, Salter's been in there with some of the best in the world. He's on a killer win streak right now. He's finishing everybody. You know, it's not going to be easy. You know, I do think that I'm going to present some problems for him that he maybe hasn't experienced, because he's definitely had the jiu-jitsu advantage on everybody he's fought thus far. And, you know, I'm not going to be easy to submit. He's not going to just take me down and submit me. He might take me down, but he's not just going to submit me easy. So, you know, if we go to the ground, the fight's just going to be getting started. It's just going to be getting interesting. And, you know, when we're on the feet, you know, I'm going to do the best that I can to do damage there, and, you know, just make a great presentation of all my skills. That's really what I want to do.
It's hard to say you're underrated at anything, given that you're a gold medalist in jiu-jitsu and undefeated in mixed martial arts, but I do think your striking might be a little underrated because people have forgotten that you finished Marcelo Nunez and Charles Hackman.
The Marcelo fight was a TKO from ground and pound, so we were on the ground. And Hackman, he was a late replacement. I don't want to say I'm like some sort of knockout specialist or anything like that. I mean, I don't have any one punch, one hit knockouts or anything like that. But, I've definitely been putting my time in on my stand up and, I'm ready, to win the fight in all areas of the game. So, we're not going to start on the ground. We're not going to start in the clinch. And, we're going to be punching and kicking each other before we're doing anything else. So, the plan is to win the fight everywhere, just be better everywhere. And, when we're on the feet, I definitely want to be, showing my skills there and doing damage. That's it.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask a decorated jiu-jitsu specialist about UFC 228 because we saw some amazing submissions, including 2 reverse knee bars, or some people call it the stump puller, in one night. What did you get a chance to catch any of that? And if so, what did you think?
I didn't watch it live. I saw some of the highlights. It's definitely pretty unique, that back submission with the leg. And for that to happen twice in the same night is pretty crazy. People talk about, or you've heard it said before that like, oh, jiu-jitsu is dead or something like that. Like everyone is too good at just getting up and you're better off just, doing ground and pound or, not wasting your time on the takedown, because you can't submit people. For me, I just love seeing all the submissions that are still happening out there. That's why that Bellator 198 Chicago was so beautiful. I am a jiu-jitsu representative. I'm 100% a lover and believer, and jiu-jitsu is my passion. That's what I want to preach and spread to everybody in the world. And so it's just awesome to see, the jiu-jitsu being displayed, still to this day. And then the main event last weekend, Woodley getting the choke finish. Jiu-jitsu is still very valid. It's just evolving with the times. Now you have to have that jiu-jitsu along with everything else. But like those knee bar finishes, it just goes on to show you what is possible. Anything is possible. I'm happy to be a part of the wave of jiu-jitsu fighters in MMA these days, and I hope to represent them, represent the jiu-jitsu community to the fullest.
And what I loved about that Woodley fight, since you mentioned it, was that was a perfect example of striking setting up submissions, because those elbows that he was lighting up Till with, they weren't finishing him off, but it caused him to react and defend himself in a way that it led to the Darce choke. So it was beautiful to see him use that to set up perfectly the submission he wanted to go for.
Exactly. And that is the jiu-jitsu MMA game. In pure jiu-jitsu, I always preach about putting people in a situation of a double threat, where there's a positional threat and a submission threat. And it's too overwhelming and too difficult for them to be able to defend both, and they eventually give you one or the other. Well, in MMA, it's very much the same thing. As you're improving position, you can be looking for submissions, and at the same time as you're doing those things, you can also, strike them. And so there's a triple threat. And so it's just an even more evolved matrix of threats and things to capitalize on. There's no way that they can defend a strike, defend a punch or an elbow, defend a position, a possible positional progression, and a submission that you can also be setting up at the same time. And so it's been a lot of fun for me to develop having that triple threat and working. it's so much more, aggressive and violent and fast paced. And I've fallen in love with the MMA Jiu-Jitsu game. And, I'm always very excited to show that. Like in my armbar finish from Bellator 198, those little elbows that I did from the high guard really helped set up that finish. And so that's something that if it was in pure jiu-jitsu, maybe his arm could have stayed in a safer place because I wouldn't have been able to elbow him. But with the strikes, you want to protect your head and you put your arm out there in a position where it can be attacked. So it's a lot of fun to put it all together.
Absolutely. And that's a beautiful comparison, and that's a great way for us to bring this full circle. Is I feel like you've set the phraseology perfectly for this fight with John Salter. You're both going to bring an evolved matrix of threats. And like you said earlier, it'll come down to those little moments when you got 2 or 3 things available to you and you have to stop defending one and try to defend the other. That'll be when the opportunity arises. So something for us to all look forward to here in a week in Boise, Idaho. But before I let you go, Rafael, I want to say thank you as always and let you plug anything you like, social media, sponsors, you name it.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that'd be great. I'd like to shout out my sponsors, Ward Tribe Gear and On It, the supplement company for all their support. Also, Brookover Enterprises, White Equipment Rental, and Cryco. I really appreciate their support in this camp. Evolution Thai, Hibeto Jiu-Jitsu, Lovato School of MMA here in Oklahoma City. All my training partners, that's my martial arts family there. Thank you to all the fans and supporters. You can follow me on social media. I'm very easy to find. Lovato JR, BJJ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook. I'm everywhere. Thank you guys for the support.
He's everywhere online, but he's only one place on September 21st. That's the CenturyLink Arena in Boise, Idaho. So if you can't be there live, don't miss it on Paramount Network. Rafael, thank you again.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Dan, as well.